Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, are you?
Great, really good.
Okay. Well, before we go into the new album, first, you did a research into American history through narrative folk music.
Yes.
I was thinking, if you look back, let's say 100 years from now, people will look back on these times with the folk music that is being made nowadays. What do you think they will say?
Well, I think that I think they'll look back at the music just in general. I believe that the music has staying power if it's saying something that's useful to us, And so I never really believed that there was a folk music. There's just music that we choose to remember, And the music that we choose to remember from 100 years ago can tell us so much about what was important at the time, And whether it was kind of the jazz stuff coming out of New Orleans, or there was or bluegrass music, that was just the music of the times, and it became folk music as we chose to remember it. And I believe that will happen again. In 100 years, there'll be music such as there'll be all kinds of, there'll be a lot of the hip hop will be so important. There'll be music Nirvana and music like that will have a message of its own. And I think that folk music will just be whatever's remembered,
But what do you think the message will be then, that people will remember?
Well, I think that you can look into anything, from my own experience of reading and researching and listening to a ton of music from a particular period. There are tons of different messages you can get out. There can be there's always a huge theme to be pulled out of the difference between the gap between the rich and the poor. Also the gap, the kind of racial divides that are there. Always there's somebody singing about somebody who's different. Always there's somebody who's different singing about why it's good to be different. Those things are immortal themes, and more and more I believe that there's only really a few things that we sing about. We sing about love, and we sing about God, and we sing about war and violence, and those are the things. And I don't know that there's really anything else, to be sung about, And so I don't think that'll happen. That'll change,
So you don't think there will be certain contemporary themes or historical things that happened that will be documented in music that we will remember?
I'm sure that's true. I mean, there's always the way we sing about, there's the singing about a costume or a way of courtship, but really it's just gloss on top of the, it's snow on the iceberg, It's just the stuff is not gonna, it's just. A Jay-Z song is good for its current theme, but it's also beneath it is all the old stuff, Yeah.
But what does this tell you? These 3 or 4 themes that people sing about. What is it? What does music do with those themes?
Well, I think the music is what the great comfort that I think we can bring from music is that life goes on past our own, we have this beautiful linkage to the past and a linkage to the future, that we're in our moment. We are that link in the chain. And that song, while a song may come and go, the themes that we sing about are human themes that will last as long as we last. And so that to me is just that's the great comfort in music. And that's also the way that I feel that we can appreciate music that's different from our own, knowing that is the case. There's no bad music or music there's music that goes out of style because it stops speaking quite the same language that we all speak. But it's certainly it's certainly about the same stuff. And there can be in a Cole Porter song the same kind of anger or jealousy or violence or happiness that is in any song out there now.
Do you still research these themes or music, or Is it just something that you did in the past?
I think it's something that I'm attuned to, and that I think that I like. You know, I certainly don't live my musical tastes don't live in the current in time only. I don't really see a reason not to be wowed by, like, Nina Simone or Vassar Clemens, or any people that, like, that have existed and have sung about the things that I think we can carry forward.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, like, and also in other forms of music, which, I've never been a person that believed that folk music had anything to teach us that was any different than pop music of any kind, or hip hop, or anything else.
Well, your new album, The Beast in the Tracks. I read many, I read through your lyrics, and well, it's definitely about, well, love and breakup and finding new love.
Yeah.
Was it for you? Was it a hard time these last few years?
Well, the beginning was certainly very hard. The marriage was hard. It was something that just wasn't working, and then when it stopped altogether, I should have been happy, but I felt horrible, and that's the way. Well, it's just like, it's an awful thing, like when something like that you go into with your whole heart breaks and it doesn't work, then it's not only like, it just feels bad in an animal way, it feels bad in a biological way. It hurts, and who knows why, but I felt very betrayed, and like I was so angry, and I thought, well, if and I thought that the album was going to reflect that mostly, but in the end, like the 2 years between that moment and when I was able to put out the record, those were years where everything just got slowly better, and because I took a while to make the record and I took my time, I think that those songs reflect that kind of move away from kind of heartbreak into like something new, which is I'm really proud of, and I didn't expect.
How come you didn't expect it?
Well, I think the tradition of records being about heartbreak and divorce, there is such an anger in them, and there's so much rage and sarcasm and hurtfulness that I tried to write like those songs initially, and they just didn't sound good. They just didn't feel good. I recorded some, and I decided not to put them out because I just don't feel like they reflect the experience that I had, which was kind of numb shock, inability to write, and then suddenly feeling like, well, my feelings about this whole divorce and this heartbreak they're so multifaceted that I can't write about one thing. I can't write about being angry. I have to write about being angry, but or being happy to be out of the relationship, but there's never like an unadulterated strain of pure emotion. It's always a mixture of emotions.
What was the first song that you actually wrote that you thought, well, now this is the feeling that I want to have?
The first song that I felt was the touchstone for the rest of the record was New Lover, and typically that happens. Like there'll be a bunch of little bits and pieces of songs, and then I'll write a song that I know that's the direction the record is going to go. And I felt like New Lover had the full range of emotions that the rest of the record was going to have.
Can you explain these emotions?
There's hoping that somebody else has somebody who's making them happy now. There's somebody else who's like somebody. There's sarcasm in it. There's a lot of like, there's bitterness. There's hopefulness. I describe it. I think about it as like you give somebody a bouquet, but it's got a wasp in it. That's the feeling. That's what I was hoping for.
I don't know if you want to talk about the lyrics specifically, but let's try.
Sure.
New Lover. I wrote down the line. Perhaps the fault was mine. Perhaps I just ignored. It's duality in it.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Well, I didn't think that I would be able to write this. I mean, one of the other things that I don't like about a lot of divorce records is that they're one-sided. And of course, I'm telling my side of the story, but I have to tell you that, like, the marriage didn't work because like it wasn't, you know, there's two people to blame for that, you know. There's always two people to blame when something like that goes on, and I was culpable, and I believe in certain in spots that the only way to get through the song is by admitting some amount of personal blame, you know. So that's really like, you know, the fault might have been mine. I might have seen somebody that I thought could be like the right person for me, and then I just ignored the faults that were initially going to be the ones that took everything down, just because I was so weak that I needed a companion. You know, that's sometimes like it's worth admitting that, you know. Yeah.
No, but you said you were, in hindsight, too weak, that you just needed a companion. When did you find this out?
Well, I would say that's. I mean, I'm suggesting that that's one way of thinking about it. I certainly found out. I think we both found out. You know, marriage is something you really like try and like, you know, you both try to do your best. You know, but if if it doesn't work, there's reasons why it didn't work, and maybe it just didn't work because we just weren't the right people, and we were trying to convince ourselves we were, you know.
Then another line, the Appleblossom Rag.
Yeah.
Does it exist?
No, I made it up. Yeah. Okay. I'd had that thought in my head. It was those great old fiddle tunes. They have like the Orange Blossom Special and the Wabash Cannonball, and like I love those names. I thought the Orange Blossom Rag or the Appleblossom Rag would be a really great name.
What does it symbolize for you? Because for me it's a bit.
Well, I thought like there's a song called the Tennessee Waltz, which is like, and then somebody wrote a song about the Tennessee Waltz. I like that there are these. It feels like a slow, sad, like somebody's in their room kind of dancing by themselves, slow, sad dance, you know? Where you're in your room late at night and you're dancing alone to this Appleblossom Rag, you know?
Yeah, okay.